Good. How's everything since the last time we spoke?
It's great. Doing great. You?
Awesome. No, very good as well. Very good.
Good.
Is John going to be joining us, or I think he just said
He's,
through emails just
he's not. Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
No problem. And then let me just accept your approval here real quick. Cool. So just before we get in and record, just to let you know beforehand, if there's anything we discussed that you don't want on the final edit, just let me know, and then
Okay.
we can relay the information over the team just that we can, leave that out of the final edit. And then today we can just worry about, having a good conversation if that works.
Sounds good.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds good. So welcome to today's episode. So we do have pretty exciting guest. Now we're Elite Growth Partners. What we do is we specialize in helping companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn more and take your company to the next level and you're interested in a free growth consultation, just comment the word growth in the DMs. So Paul, if you can start things off, first off, thank you for joining us today. And then so if you can just start things off with what inspired you to, helping manufacturers and distributors through ERP solutions and just some of the business improvement strategies.
Yeah. So I really fell in love with manufacturing and distribution when I was in college. I had to find a way to pay for college at the time. So I took two jobs. One was during the school year. I'd work at a manufacturing company that would retrofit gunite pools that had cracked with a vinyl liner.
Mhm.
And there I did CAD design as well as IT. And with the IT role, they were actually an Apple house or a Mac house, and they used FileMaker Pro. So they had built their custom ERP using FileMaker Pro. So like their inventory, their finance, their quoting was on that. So just getting involved in that and seeing how big of a change data can make and process improvements and that software could make for the company was really exciting. And then in the summers, my dad worked at a can company, so can manufacturer, out of Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'd work on the shop floor for 3 days a week, and then in the office for 2 days a week. And they had those old mainframe with a 5 1/4 inch floppy drives that you don't see anymore. But I learned how to do financial report writing there, and just fell in love with that. And then I knew I wanted to go into technology and manufacturing. I just love manufacturing and distribution, so I went to WM Synergy a few years later, after working for the publisher prior to that, and just seeing how our consultants could, really change a company and allow them to grow and be a catalyst for growth through technology, process, and just collaboration was just really exciting. And I've been in love with manufacturing ever since. So,
Mhm. I'm curious if there was a moment in the early stages, almost like an aha moment when you realized that this was going to be something that you were going to be successful in.
um, I think it's been a while. I've been up for 25 years. So I think the aha moment came. There was one time where before was in sales. So I went from like consulting to sales to leadership, right? And before I was in sales, I remember being on this project where I had to do the data migration. I think they were on some really old, you know, technology. We had to do screen scrapes of the data out of there, and then they were moving over to SQL Server. And we had to get the bills of material, the routings, and things like that out of the database. And I just remember staying up, and I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. So I'd stay up. I had my daughter, I think she was 1 year old at the time, and she's in my arm, and I'm 2 o'clock in the morning figuring this all out. And the next morning, I'm like, I figured this out. I understood how to build these sub assemblies in the top level assembly and manufacturing and the routings and migrate them all over. And I'm like, I get this. I get ERP. I get this job. And let's try to do more things in this realm. So that was probably the moment, was that 2 o'clock in the morning up on the all-nighter that you do when you're younger. Right. So
No sleep.
yeah.
That's
So
good. So if you kind of fast forward to today, how did clients find you back then when you first started? And then how are those strategies kind of evolved to where they are today? And how do clients typically find you in today's world?
yeah. So clients have always found us through word of mouth. So that's been a really good way, and that continues to be the number one way we find leads. But back then, paper lead programs would work a lot better than they do today. So we work with companies like, say, Software Advice, for example, Gartner company, right? And we buy those paper leads. But over time, the publishers would cause those leads to be more expensive, and then people didn't want to get spammed with phone calls every 10 seconds when they fill out a form. So they learned to use newer tools. So that's one thing that we used to use back then that has kind of gone away is the pay per lead aspect of our business. So more of it now is, referrals and some other marketing tactics that we do as well.
Mhm. So what's been your most successful marketing initiative up until this point?
We have a customer for life initiative. That's what we call it. So that's really, listening to our customers, making sure that we're keeping them happy, solving other issues that they might have, and then that turns into referrals. So
Mhm.
referrals from the customers, referrals from other partners that we work with, like ISVs, and then referrals from employees as well. So they might be sitting on a plane talking about, how we built the company, and we get a referral there. So referrals is by far the number one successful initiative that we've had, and we call that our customer for life program because we have customers, we have multiple ERPs that we sell, and they might start with an on-premise and be on an on-premise system, and they might want to move to the cloud. So we really need to keep them happy to have them want to stay, with
Mhm.
us. So there's a lot of
So,
other options out there. So
mhm. So do you have referral programs for your clients?
we do. We have a referral program for our clients. We also have a referral program for the employees with a pretty healthy spiff on that, and as well as our partners. So, we try to make it really easy for our customers to have a pre-built way to introduce us to their
Mhm.
customers or their vendors or suppliers. So absolutely, yep,
Mhm.
yep.
So on that topic, then, what do you think is kind of the biggest factor that encourages your clients to refer you guys?
It comes back to meaningful results, I think.
Mhm.
So we had one customer that when they first came to us and they first got their ERP live, they were they were about 68, I think 68% on time delivery. It could have been worse. So when you're delivering to a customer and you give them a promise date and you miss that, that means it's not on time. So they were getting 68% of the time they were on time, which is not the greatest for their kind of business.
Mhm.
So when we help them with newer processes, new features, turning them on in the software scheduling features, shop floor features, we're able to get them to 99% on-time delivery. Now, when you see a meaningful change like that,
Mhm.
that means they're probably going to give you a referral. So we always talk about, can we meaningfully change a metric? Can we meaningfully change a process? Can we automate something? Can we get them data that they need to see to make better decisions? And that's typically when we find that those referrals.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Now,
Yep.
throughout the conversations and the, I don't know how many podcasts we've now recorded, there's been some mixed reviews on outbound efforts. I know
Yep.
there's been some horror stories, of, ruining reputations and, ending up in spam folders, things of that nature. Personally, just through your experience, how have you found outbound efforts?
So we're doubling down on both inbound and outbound this year, based on those paper leads kind of going away. Also in our referral program, but we've had some outbound things that have been difficult. Spending a lot of time on nurture campaigns. Seeing that we get decent click rates, but not as many follow-ups as we'd like to see, or that a prospect reaching out to us. We also have tried things like trade shows in the past, and especially pre-COVID, going out and doing trade shows. You get a lot of business cards in a bucket, right, or in a fishbowl, and then you try to call them, and you spend a lot of time calling them, and there's usually no projects that are actually going on. So we've learned, how to move more towards account-based marketing, where we have really focused groups of identified certain specific targets for the customers and what we're calling about, as well as if you go to a trade show, do things like the podcast at the booth, like we're doing right now, where you're getting more visibility and more brand awareness, with not just having a booth at a trade show, for example.
Mhm. Mhm. So what was kind of your messaging behind the outbound efforts? Because I know that that's,
Yeah.
I think that if you are presenting a message that resonates with your audience, obviously that's going to improve
Mhm.
the success of the campaigns. So what are some strategies that you guys have implemented to get the correct messaging in front of your ideal clients?
Yeah, I think our older messaging used to be only based on like customer success stories,
Mm.
right? So really, it wasn't admit that it wasn't the best call to action, right? So we have, here's something we did with this customer and hope somebody calls. So now we do that as part of the messaging now that we've changed to, but we're also doing things like, legacy ERP to cloud ERP as a campaign for outbound or micro vertical niches. So we're really good at remanufacturing, oil and gas, aerospace and defense. So really going into niches and having specific outbound messaging around those niches as well. Yep.
Yeah, because it sounds like just what you mentioned now, it sounds like you've almost shifted to more value-based
Mhm.
campaigns. And I think that, do you think that that's been kind of the key factor? Or do you think there's other maybe components that all work together?
I think it's doing everything. We've been
Mm,
changing a lot just this year, right? So the Google algorithms that changed last
mm,
year, we saw our website traffic come down a little bit with people using AI more. And if I don't know about you, but if you do a Google search, the first thing that comes up is the AI summary at the top now. So wanting to be up there. So we've changed things around that. But I think doing that as well as the outbound campaigns that are more value focused and here's what we're able to do for these type of customers and here's something that you can do either with us or on your own to get that result has been more effective for us. Yep.
mhm.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. I like that. In terms of the strategies that you mentioned or the changes, the new things that you guys are implementing, how's that been going so far? Because I know I spoke with a cybersecurity owner about a month ago, and they were saying that they like typically marketing takes a long time before they start to see results. So I'm just
Yep.
curious to how you've kind of managed that and what types of results you were seeing and how quickly you were able to obtain those results.
Yeah, we did a two-prong approach because just to fill up the short-term pipeline or funnel.
Okay.
So we worked with our Customer for Life program, the referral program. We worked with reaching out to ERP selection consultants and reminding them, hey, we're here and here's what we do and that kind of thing. So they consider us for when they got projects. So, being where our customers are, right? That kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then working with our publishers, both Infor and Acumatica, and looking for them to provide additional leads to us. So those have been the three things that are helped with more short term. And then we've working on our SEO, so it's more AI friendly, more new Google algorithms, and then changing those, account based marketing as well as the other outbound activities, trade shows with a podcast, with a speaking engagement. So some of those things are more long term, and we are starting to see a little bit there. We got our first lead from AI, I think yesterday, where they
Awesome.
actually did a search for something like best ERP for remanufacturing, and we appeared there, which was really cool. On the blurb up top with a
Mhm.
picture for our website, so that was kind of neat. So that's kind of the first time we've seen that happen as well.
Mhm.
So that's been a long time coming. Like you said, it takes a while. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I really like that approach though, with just getting some short-term wins. And
Hmm.
then that just kind of keeps the momentum going for, the more long-term thing. So I really like that approach a lot. Now, in terms of like if you had to kind of give advice maybe to your future or your past self or just to maybe getting started, what what are some things that you would tell them to look for in terms of attracting the type of client that they ideally want to work with?
So for our company right now, the type of company,
Yeah,
yeah.
so if you
Right.
yeah, so just advice for attracting the clients that you want to work with.
Yeah, so really it's about listening to them, right? Going into a company, listening to the kind of the issues that they have, being aware of what's going on in the manufacturing industry, so you can, know the best practices, the processes, the technology that can help them out. So, I think just really knowing your industry, knowing the solutions that you can provide, listening to a client, listening to their points, and making sure that you can address them. That's the best way we found to get people that want to work with us is our showing them our experience, and the breadth of solutions that we have that
Mhm.
help with their problems. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And are you able to walk through, a specific standout ERP, client success story? And, if you just have to talk to me about how you guys were able to make it work.
Sure. I got two of them, if you don't mind, real quick. One is the one I told you about before. It's a company called Thermofab. They're out of Shirley, Massachusetts. And they, when they first started with us, they were around 68% on-time delivery. They went to that 99% on-time delivery. But and it wasn't just that. They also reduced overtime. So that meant they reduced their costs. So their profits went up. They made their customers happy. So they got more business. And they were also able to increase on-time delivery, reduce lead time, reduce that shift, but also start charging for rush orders, which was a new revenue line for them. So that was a huge difference in their company, which gets really exciting for me. And another one is Cancast, which is a newer example. They just started working with us about a year and a half ago. And their vision is to reindustrialize manufacturing and bring local manufacturing back. So modernizing technology, modernizing the shop floor, and we worked with them, and they become one of our top references. And they're buying a lot of companies up, so they bring us in for every single one. So that's a great story that I love hearing about. That
Hmm.
localizing manufacturing, reindustrializing places where they've lost manufacturing, for example.
So
Yep.
what would you say are kind of the biggest problems that you solve for your clients?
Yeah, the biggest problems that we solve is first and foremost is efficiency, being able to do things quicker with less mouse clicks or less spreadsheets and other systems, going back and forth between systems, being able to report off one standard set of data or one source of truth, is it? And then you get into things like, costing visibility, scheduling the shop floor, estimating more quickly, knowing what products make money and which ones don't make money, quality management. So there's quite a material planning. So ERP can do quite a few things, and now it's getting into things like AI and RPA and machine learning, right? So there's a few things that our solution can do for a manufacturing company, but the big difference is that we understand the processes and the technology. We can marry them together to help a company reach their business goals and realize their full potential.
Awesome.
Yep.
What is that the most rewarding part of the job, or is there, other things that come to mind that make this all worth it?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding part of the job to me is I just love the manufacturing, like I told you before. I mean, manufacturers have that get it done attitude. They're very resilient. They never let anything get in their way. If I think about tariffs right now, manufacturers don't let that get in their way. They figure it out pretty quickly and move on, right? So, but the big other cool thing that I've seen in my career is, have you ever driven through a town and it looks like it used to be a nice, vibrant town, and now it's like not as vibrant, and more run down, and somebody says, oh, it's because it used to be a manufacturing town and those jobs went somewhere else. But you also see the reverse effect when we have companies that grow and they'll move. We had one that moved into Troy, Alabama recently, and you just see how the change in the local economy is. And then the things that they can do. It's just, we love manufacturing, the heartbeat of the economy, and being able to help our team and the experience that we have, being able to help them, that's the most rewarding thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. What would you say are some common misconceptions that clients have before working with you or maybe other companies?
Yeah. So if you never implemented an ERP system before, you might not know the level of effort that it takes. These are not, 2, 3, 4 week projects, and you might think that if you've never done that. So being able to work with them, show how to be successful in an implementation project is going to take a few months, to get there, what the project plan looks like. That's one of the big misconceptions. Another one is that all these software companies just sell software, whatever's in their bag, right? We don't do that. First of all, we have multiple ERP products. We picked the right one, but we also have a center of excellence that is ERP agnostic, strategic, consulting for manufacturing companies like Lean Consulting, Kaizens, things of that nature. And we've actually told companies, hey, you might not be ready for ERP. Your current system might be good enough. Let's go fix these things, like put some virtual Kanban on the shop floor or put some strategic planning together. So we just really want to live our mission, which is helping manufacturers and distributors realize their full potential.
Mhm. Yeah, because it
Yeah.
sounds like you have a more customizable approach, just as
Yeah.
opposed to just something off the shelf that you're just that's generic and doesn't really work for many
Right.
companies.
Yeah.
What would you say are some other things that just separate you from your competitors?
Yeah, we have a lot of companies like us have, they have software they're selling, they have consultants that will help you implement it, they have people that help you with data migration. What makes us different is our center of excellence, which is that ERP agnostic, is they understand manufacturing. They used to be COOs, CFOs, CEOs at huge big manufacturing companies. They speak at like the World Quality Conference, manufacturing conferences as keynote speakers. They just understand it, and they can actually help with business process improvement, current state, future state, and then tailor the implementation to that, and then also do continuous improvement later on. We also have an innovation center. So if you want to integrate or extend or automate something, we can help with anything like that. And then we try to be turnkey. So anything a company needs, whether it's help with cybersecurity, AI, business intelligence, the shop floor, everything else that we talked about with ERP implementation or best practices, we try to be that one-stop shop and stay ahead of what our customers need. So when they come to us with a problem, we're able to help solve it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's if we kind of had a shift in terms of trends? Like, is there anything that's standing out at the moment in the ERP space that clients can benefit from?
Yeah, over the last 3, 4 years since COVID, you've really seen a lot of people move to the cloud, cloud manufacturing. And what that's also enabled is new technologies because all that data is in the cloud and it's scalable and more processing power. You're seeing AI being introduced, things like anomaly detection. Find me where an invoice was very different than any other invoice we've ever paid, right, from a supplier, and flag that for me, for example, or tell me where I'm not getting the margins I thought I would on this quote. And then you're seeing agentic AI, process automation, things like that. So those are the big trends, cloud, AI, that we're seeing in the market right now. Yep.
What would what should a company be considering when moving its ERP system to the cloud?
Yeah, so if you're on premises, the benefits of cloud you probably heard many times is, there's cost benefits. You're not
Hmm.
paying for a new server every 3 years. You're not paying for that server run, all the electricity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're not worrying about having somebody that's taken the time to make sure the backups are working, troubleshooting the server. They're actually working on things that are going to help the company, like reporting, workflows, automation, AI. You don't have to worry about cybersecurity. We've had multiple on-prem customers hit with malware and ransomware and things of that nature, where you don't see that in the cloud. Scalability, you have a platform. But the biggest piece of advice I'd give to somebody looking for the cloud is to start now, because if you want to take advantage of those tools like AI, better BI tools, better reporting, you need to have good data. So you have to go through a data migration process, have a good data governance thing, and you have to have a couple of years of data in your ERP to use those new technologies. So if your goal is to do that in the next couple of years, you kind of have to start now. That's the big piece of advice I'd give.
Hmm.
Yep.
So what do you think the future looks like for your business? Like if you kind of had to, fast track 3 to 5 years in the future.
Yeah, we have some pretty aggressive growth goals, I'd say. Like a lot of companies, you always have that term, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So we have some pretty big growth goals. But one of the things that I want to make sure is that us as a company remains agile, and we keep both our employees and our customers as top of mind with that customer for life. That's really important to me. And then, keep those references coming in. We really need to have that happen. That's tough in our industry to get references because ERP projects aren't the most fun thing to do.
Hmm.
So I think if you look forward 3 to 5 years, we want to keep customers top of mind. We want to have growth, and we want to see people taking advantage of those new technologies we talked about that are enabled by moving to the cloud.
Hmm. So in terms of, you mentioned wanting to grow pretty substantially. Where do you feel is kind of the biggest opportunity in
Hey,
that growth?
yeah, that's a great question. So the biggest opportunities for us is there's a lot of people that are still on-prem. So going from what some people call legacy ERP to the cloud would be one of the things where we think we can get a lot of growth in there, as well as we've invested a lot in certain last mile functionality for certain niche industries like remanufacturing, agricultural off-road and remanufacturing, automotive cores, for example. We also do oil and gas, like pumps and valves. If you've ever watched the show Landman, a lot of our customers make those products, which is kind of
That's
neat.
awesome.
And then aerospace and defense, all different types of aerospace and defense. So that's a lot of growth there. And then with the services around these new tools like AI and the BI that's coming out, that's where we see a lot of growth in those different areas.
Mhm.
Yep.
Do you think, what you just mentioned with the growth in the next, 3 to 5 years, like, is there anything that could possibly disrupt that a little bit or just prevent you guys from being able to get to where you're looking to get to?
I think the biggest thing is the biggest disruptor for growth could be, human resources, having skilled employees probably. You don't just learn ERP overnight. So we spent a lot of time making sure that we're a talent magnet in our industry, that people want to work for us, that we're a great place to work.
Mhm.
So that's probably the real thing that could disrupt that. You never know what's going to happen in technology, right? Could AI take over a lot of the things that ERP do and you don't need ERP anymore? Don't know, but that's a possibility, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, 'cause you reminded me of another question now because we've spoken to some business owners and over the last, I don't know, probably 6 months or so. And the ones that seem to be growing substantially, like they have that one thing that they put a lot of their time and effort in. And
Yeah.
then maybe talk to a smaller company and there's like 15 different things that they're working on. So
Right.
I'm just, yeah, I want to get your thoughts on that, on if you guys have like a specific challenge that you're looking to overcome, or if it's maybe just improving and just making things more efficient.
Yeah, the number one thing is helping companies move to the cloud. That's the number one thing. And then number two and three was that micro vertical specialization. So we keep putting last mile functionality in to those tools. So yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
I think just the last thing I wanted to ask you is, if you can go back to the early days, if
Yep.
there's, a piece of advice that you would give yourself, or maybe anything that you might do a little bit differently.
I think I was lucky enough to be willing to take a risk when I was younger, which enabled I think my career really. I remember, like I told you about having young kids, and I took a job that didn't have health insurance at the time, and then it was a small company, and now we're a lot bigger, right? So, and
Mm,
leading it, so that was a nice risk. But I think one thing I've learned that I didn't do back then is to use data to back up your hunches, right? So validate, right? So I heard a term from somebody recently that works with me that nothing change if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So take risks, but use data to back it up, right?
yeah, I like that because I know that's kind of the approach we take as well. It's a more logical, data-driven approach. This is just like,
Right,
I think we should maybe do this, or I have this idea, whatever it is. It's just follow
right.
the data. It at least
Yeah,
tells you what direction you can go, and you can go all in with that. But yeah, listen, I really appreciate the time. It was good to pick your brain and see what's working, and just getting your perspective on growth opportunities and things like that. If there's a couple things that resonated with us, with some business owners in our network, and some of our past clients, in terms of some of their growth strategies and the things that they're implementing specifically in outbound efforts. If if you know I just if we jumped on a separate call and I put down some bullet points for you and just showed you some things that they're doing that have allowed them to scale effectively, like, is that maybe something you and John would be
totally.
open to having?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So I think, like, for us, I mean, it's just at least a chance to be able to provide some value back. So I know that you've given us a lot of value by coming on the podcast. So I think it'll be an opportunity for us to at least share some insights from
sure.
other things that we've gotten in our community. And then,
Yeah,
is there anything we went over today? I mean, I think it was all pretty straightforward. Like, is there anything you maybe want us to take out of the edits, or is everything we spoke about today was good?
I think it was fine. Did you think there was anything that I misspoke on, or no?
Not,
Okay.
not- and even
And
if
if
you
we have that call, I'd love to have our VP of Sales and Marketing, Jessica, on that call as well.
Okay. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds good. And then
yeah,
do you maybe want to get something in the calendar now for next week while I got you on the call? I'm not sure if you got, the other team members available as well.
sure.
Cool. Let's see. I know early next week's a little bit crazy for us at the moment right now. What does Wednesday look like for you?
Looks good for me. Let me grab her schedule and see as well.
Or sorry, Tuesday. Monday's a little bit tight, but I think Tuesday I've got some time.
Um, Tuesday, I think her and I both at 2 p.m. Eastern, or we could do Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Let's do Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you able to just drop her email in the chat real quick, and then I can just send over the calendar invite to both you guys?
We'll do. Let's see.
Do you want me to extend the invite to John as well, or is it just going to be you and was it Jessica, I
I think
believe?
it's just the two of us is fine. Yeah.
And it was Jessica. Is that my am I
Yep.
wrong? Okay, awesome. And then give us about a week or so, and then that'll just give us enough time to clip up the podcast, and then
Okay.
just copy and
Do you
paste.
send it to us before posting it in case there was anything that we thought?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So what we'll do is
Okay.
I'll send you an email with all the clips. We won't post anything on our end. And then
Okay.
you guys are free to post it wherever you're most active on. And
Yeah.
then just on our end, what we'll do is like, we've just been posting it on our LinkedIn profile, but
Yep.
reach out to you beforehand just to get confirmation, just that we're not, violating anything or anything like that. But yeah, before we post
Awesome.
anything, we'll definitely run it by you guys.
Sounds good.
Awesome. I appreciate the time. And then, yeah, like I said, just give us about a week and then we'll get over those short form clips too. And then I'll see you
All right.
guys on Tuesday. Sorry, what was it? Tuesday at 1 p.m.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Asher. Thank you.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. All the best.
All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.